Breaking news tonight, Sean Diddy Combs has been arrested in a Manhattan hotel this evening after a grand jury indicted the music mogul.
Diddy didn't walk into that courtroom like a man facing decades behind bars. He didn't look like someone worried about the weight of justice crashing down on him. No, he walked in like it was another day at the office. Or worse, like he was walking the red carpet, chin high, eyes hidden behind designer sunglasses, lips curled into a smug smile. From the first step, everyone in that courtroom knew one thing. This wasn't going to be a normal trial. What happened next confirmed it. Over the course of the trial, Sean Diddy Combs transformed the courtroom into a stage, a chaotic one. A place that should have been focused on truth, evidence, and justice became a circus of ego, disrespect, and denial. Witnesses wept, prosecutors pushed forward, but Diddy acted like he was untouchable. Number 10, the showboat entrance that shut the room down. Courtrooms are meant to be solemn places, quiet, controlled, focused. But when Diddy arrived, that atmosphere cracked wide open. The door opened slowly. Everyone turned, prosecutors, reporters, the jury. They all stopped what they were doing, and there he was. Diddy walked in like he owned the place, not rushed, not nervous, but slow, confident, and with that same swagger you'd expect at a club opening or an awards show. His outfit was perfectly tailored. Not a wrinkle in sight. He wore a long, sleek black coat, sunglasses that covered half his face, and an expression that said, "I'm not worried, but he should have been." This was federal court, not a music video. And yet, Diddy walked in like he was the main event. His shoes echoed on the floor as he moved past rows of stiff-backed chairs and anxious observers. He didn't acknowledge anyone, didn't nod to the judge, didn't glance at the bailiff, didn't acknowledge the people he was accused of hurting. And when he reached his table, he didn't sit. He stood there. For nearly 30 seconds, he just stood there, looking around, letting the silence settle. It was a power move. The judge raised an eyebrow. The bailiff gave a subtle gesture, telling him to take his seat. Diddy didn't move. Another nudge. Nothing. Finally, with a dramatic sigh, he slid into his chair, slowly, like he was bored already. It was clear this wasn't going to be a respectful appearance, it was going to be a performance, and Diddy had just opened the show with an act of pure disrespect. Number 9, can you even handle my case? By the second day, Diddy had already tested the court's patience, but on the third day, he crossed a line no one expected. It happened during a heated exchange between the prosecution and the defense. The judge asked a routine question, something simple, something to move the case forward. Diddy leaned forward in his chair, looked at the judge square in the eyes, and smirked. "Can you even handle my case?" he said. The courtroom froze. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't said with a smile. It was sharp, condescending, meant to sting. The judge sat back, clearly stunned. You could see the flash of anger in his eyes, even as he tried to remain composed. Diddy's lawyer leaned in immediately, whispering frantically, but the damage was done. That one sentence shattered any illusion that Diddy respected the court. He wasn't just questioning the system, he was mocking it, challenging it, as if to say, "You're not powerful enough to deal with me?" That arrogance lingered in the room for the rest of the day, and everyone, jury included, took note. Number 8, the sunglasses stunt that shook the jury. On the 4th day, Diddy pulled a move so brazen even the jury looked confused. He showed up wearing the same sunglasses from his first appearance. Massive, reflective, and completely unnecessary indoors. But this time he didn't take them off. Even as court was called to order, Diddy sat with his arms folded, sunglasses on, eyes hidden. The judge paused. "Mr. Combs," he said firmly, "please remove your sunglasses." Diddy didn't flinch. He turned his head slightly, adjusted his sleeve, but said nothing. The judge repeated the command. Louder. Still nothing. Finally, his lawyer reached over and whispered something. Diddy sighed dramatically and removed the glasses with exaggerated slowness, like he was being forced to do something beneath him. He placed them on the table with a loud, deliberate thud. It wasn't just a fashion choice, it was defiance, refusing a basic rule of courtroom decorum to make a point. "I'm not like everyone else, I don't follow your rules." The jury saw it, the press saw it, and most importantly, the judge saw it. A small act, but a powerful one. A reminder that for Diddy, the rules didn't matter. Number 7, I'm not taking that plea. A public rejection of accountability. By the second week of the trial, whispers of a possible plea deal had started to circulate. Legal insiders speculated that Diddy's lawyers were desperately trying to avoid the worst-case scenario. Behind the scenes, hours of negotiation were unfolding. There was talk that if Diddy admitted some responsibility, he could avoid the maximum penalties. But Diddy had other plans. In the middle of a routine session before the prosecution even had a chance to respond, Diddy stood up suddenly, forcefully. "I'm not taking that plea," he shouted. His voice echoed through the courtroom like a gunshot. Gasps followed. The judge slammed the gavel once to restore order. Diddy's legal team looked frozen in place. One lawyer dropped his pen. The lead attorney, pale and wide-eyed, whispered something urgently to Diddy, but Diddy wasn't listening. He was staring at the judge. Bold, proud, reckless. Rejecting a plea deal is one thing. Announcing it publicly, like a declaration of war, is something else entirely. The courtroom had never seen anything like it. This wasn't about justice anymore. This was about pride, about ego. Diddy didn't care what the prosecutors said. He didn't care what his own lawyers advised. He wanted to win on his terms or burn everything down trying. That outburst erased any notion that he was willing to cooperate with the system. From that point forward, the prosecution wasn't just presenting a case, they were going to war. Number 6, let me speak. Why are you known for party your mayor responsible always retry you in a way? When Diddy tried to take over the courtroom was already tense that day. A witness had just finished a gut-wrenching testimony. The prosecution was about to rest. Diddy's lawyer began to speak, but didn't get far. Diddy interrupted us all. Let me speak. At first, people were annoyed. People thought he was whispering to his lawyer, but then he stood loud, demanding, "Let me speak," he shouted again, louder now. His lawyer reached up to pull him back down, but it was too late. Diddy was already talking. For the next 5 minutes, Diddy ranted about the media, about the government, about how everyone was against him, how this whole thing was a setup, how he was the real victim. It wasn't a legal argument, it was an unfiltered meltdown. The judge ordered him to stop twice. Diddy kept talking. Finally, the judge threatened to hold him in contempt. That got his attention, barely. He sat back down, muttering under his breath the entire time, but the damage was already done. Diddy had thrown his own team's strategy in the trash. He'd proven he wasn't just impulsive, he was dangerous to his own defense. The jury watched in stunned silence, and prosecutors, they quietly celebrated because Diddy had just made himself the most unreliable voice in the room. Number 5, the meltdown at the prosecutor. There are outbursts, and then there are explosions. This was an explosion. It started with a cross-examination. The prosecutor, a seasoned federal attorney, was doing his job, asking tough questions, exposing inconsistencies in Diddy's previous statements. Diddy stayed calm at first, but then the prosecutor struck a nerve. He asked about a specific night, one tied to a major allegation. Diddy's jaw clenched, his breathing changed, and then he snapped. "You don't know me!" he barked. "You think you know what happened? You don't know The courtroom erupted. The judge slammed his gavel over and over, shouting for silence. The prosecutor didn't even move. He stayed calm. But Diddy kept going, pointing, standing, pacing like a caged animal. "You don't get to come at me like that," he screamed. "You're nobody." It took both of his lawyers to calm him down and pull him back into his seat. And just like that, Diddy had proven every point the prosecution was trying to make, that he was unstable, disrespectful, arrogant. Worse, he made himself look guilty. Number 4, this is a waste of my time. Mocking the entire trial. The witness on the stand was crying. Her voice broke. Her hands trembled as she described the events that had brought her to this courtroom. The room was silent. Everyone, even the jury, leaned forward, listening, absorbing, processing the pain, except Diddy, he leaned back, arms crossed, and scoffed. Under his breath, but loud enough to be heard by those sitting nearby, he muttered, "This is a waste of my time." Time stopped. One of the victim's family members gasped. A juror snapped his head around to look at Diddy. Even the court reporter's hands froze mid-typing. The judge stared at him, but Diddy didn't care. He kept his posture, relaxed, casual, bored. That one sentence changed everything. Not only was it callous, it was insulting to the victim, to the process, to the entire legal system. He wasn't just showing contempt for the court, he was showing contempt for the pain he caused. Number 3, texting while a victim testified. It was one of the most important testimonies of the trial. A young woman, clearly shaken, struggling to get through her story. She had to pause several times to collect herself. Every word seemed to cost her something an hour and dar, and while she spoke, Diddy was texting, eyes glued to his phone, thumbs tapping quickly. A small glow from the screen lit up his corner of the courtroom. At first, people thought maybe he was taking notes or communicating with his legal team. But then came the smirk, the quiet chuckle, the head shake. He wasn't engaged, he was entertained. The judge noticed. "Mr. Combs," the judge said, "put the phone away, now." Diddy looked up slowly. He didn't move for several seconds, then with exaggerated laziness, he placed the phone screen down on the table, only to pick it back up 5 minutes later. This time the judge wasn't patient. "Mr. Combs, if you touch that phone again during testimony, you'll be removed." Only then did Diddy comply, but the jury had seen enough. The damage was done. Number 2, do you know who I am? The fame card that backfired. Some moments echo through a courtroom long after they've passed. This was one of them. During a tense procedural delay, the judge called for a brief recess. Diddy, clearly frustrated, leaned over to one of the court officers escorting him and muttered under his breath, but not quietly enough, "Do you know who I am?" The officer didn't respond. He didn't need to. The entire courtroom heard it. Heads turned, jurors stiffened, even his own legal team looked horrified. That single sentence said it all. It wasn't about legal facts. It wasn't about innocence or guilt. It was about power, fame, entitlement. Diddy wasn't asking a real question. He was issuing a warning, a flex, as if to say, "You shouldn't treat me like this. I'm above this." The judge returned and asked for silence, but it was too late. The comment had been overheard by half the room, and the other half heard about it before the end of the day. Reporters whispered it across social media. Court sketch artists froze mid-draw. The moment became legend. Not because of what it meant legally, but because of what it revealed. Diddy wasn't afraid of the trial. He was offended that it was even happening, and that more than anything made the jury question the man sitting before them. Number 1, the sarcastic finale that sealed his legacy. It all came down to the verdict. After weeks of emotional testimony, harsh cross-examinations, and public outcry, the final day arrived. Cameras waited outside, reporters packed the benches, and Diddy sat relaxed. The jury entered. Everyone rose. Then came the moment. The judge cleared his throat and began to read the decision. Diddy sat motionless, lips slightly parted, hands folded like he was at a brunch table waiting for the waiter. And when the verdict was delivered, words that would decide his future, Diddy laughed. Not a loud laugh, not a belly laugh, but enough. A smirk, a shake of the head, a soft sarcastic whisper to his lawyer. "Well, that's just fine." Heard by 2 jurors. The judge didn't stop, but everyone felt it. That final moment was the cherry on top of a long list of insults. Diddy wasn't shocked. He wasn't sad. He wasn't even angry. He was annoyed that this process had dared to judge him. Even in defeat, he acted like he had won. But in truth, he lost far more than just a trial. He lost respect. He lost credibility. And maybe worst of all, he revealed his true self. And Diddy didn't just walk into that courtroom to defend himself, he walked in to destroy his image. One smug, disrespectful, arrogant moment at a time. And when the gavel finally dropped, it wasn't justice that echoed through the room. It was the sound of a man who thought he was above the law, crashing back down to reality.